Welcome to this week's instalment of Just Ask Jess. The question for this week that I was asked to answer was to give my top 3 tips on dealing with challenging people, which I always think is interesting because you never know if you're actually a person that somebody else finds challenging. But my top 3 tips would probably be as follows. So first of all, remember or assume good intent. So it's really interesting that we judge ourselves by our intentions and we judge other people by their actions, but actually what sits beneath the action is really important. So generally speaking, people don't wake up in the morning and say, oh, I'm going to go to work today and really annoy so-and-so. So the chances are if they're doing something you don't like or you find difficult to handle, there's still a good reason that sits behind it. And if you can assume that, 1, it will stop you getting so wound up about what they're doing, and 2, it'll help you explore the difference between their intention and their impact, which is what you're trying to get to the bottom of. 2, I would make sure you pull and not push, and what I mean by that is in any conversation there's 2 sides. So there's putting forward what you want, which is push behavior, and there's exploring what somebody else wants, which is pull behavior. And what happens if we're in push behavior, when we're dealing with someone who we find challenging, the chances are they're telling us what they want or pushing for what they want, and what happens is we tend to push back and then we end up in this kind of situation all the time. So if somebody is, kind of pushing their views or their opinions, rather than pushing back, it's a good time to listen, to explore, to ask good open questions, try and understand their intention, try and understand what motivates and drives them, so that you can better position what you're looking to get out of the conversation and find a mutual solution that works for everybody. And lastly, I would say speak their language. So people are motivated by different things. We have different traits, different personality characteristics, different things that are important to us. And we tend to try and influence people by speaking to other people about what's important to us. The chances are if you find somebody challenging to handle, you have very different views or very different values. But if you're talking to them about what's important to you, they're probably not hearing you because it's not important to them. So you need to explore and figure out what's important to them and then put what you need in context that makes sense to them. So those would probably be the 3 that I suggest. Remember or assume good intentions. People do things for good reasons. Pull, so ask good questions, listen, explore, don't push your view back on them, and find out what's important to them and speak their language rather than speaking your own. So those would be my top 3 for dealing with challenging people. If you have a question for me, then feel free to tweet it to Just Ask Jess at E3 Consult or email it to us at contact@e3.ca.